welcome to Note Doctors. My name is Paul.
My name is Jen.
My name is Ben.
And we are your hosts. We are all university music theory instructors who are passionate about music theory and music theory instruction. In this podcast, we will be talking about all things theory with some of the best music theory teachers in the country. If you want to know more about music theory and the most effective and innovative ways to teach it, this is the podcast for you. All right, so today we are really pleased to have not one, not two, not three, but four guests with us on the podcast. In no particular order: Jena Root, Patricia, Burt, Jenny Sterling, Snodgrass, and Leigh VanHandel. Though I do have to mention, this is Jena's, Patricia's, and Leigh's second time on the podcast. So I believe that is you're given an honorary Note Doctor's doctorate. And then Jenny, this is your third time. So I believe emeritus status is what you are given. I have to check the bylaws to make sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But this conversation is kind of coming out of 2024 presentation you all did at the Pedagogy Into Practice Conference that was at the University of Oklahoma. And so that presentation, or that panel that you gave, was called Unexpected Pivots: How a Mid-Career Job Change Can Rejuvenate Pedagogical Practice. And so since you and, well, I guess we are too, we're all mid-career, it took us about 15 months to try to schedule a time where we could actually all be on the same Zoom call. But we're excited to talk with you about kind of some of the things that you all spoke about, because I think it was really a powerful time. And also to let us know kind of where you are at now, because that may have changed since you gave that presentation. So if we can just kind of go around so people can get to hear your voice, because this will just be audio, and let our listeners know where you're at. So let's see. Patricia, you're right below me, so I'll start with you, and then you can send it to whoever is below you, I suppose.
Okay, sounds good. I'm Patricia, and I am still at Juilliard. This is my third year, and I think I had just finished my first year when we did that presentation. Jenny, you're below me.
Hi, I'm Jenny Snodgrass. I'm the director of the School of Music at Middle Tennessee State University, and I've been here for about 4.5 months now. Jena.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jena Root, and I'm at Brown University, and I just started my third year.
And I'm Leigh VanHandel, and I'm at the University of British Columbia, and I am just starting my 6th year question. I don't know if COVID years count.
They might count double.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, great. It's we're so happy to have you on. And so perhaps we can start off by maybe one or a number of you sharing a little bit about the genesis of the talk that you all gave, and kind of maybe the gist about what that conversation was about.
I think that's Jena.
Yeah, I think it is. I chaired the panel, and I didn't know if this was sort of pedagogy conference material or not, but if not at Pedagogy Into Practice, where? And it came out of a group chat that we were having as we were going through this process of deciding to leave. I think we were all in tenured positions or tenure track positions, and it's a variety of things that caused us to want to move. But it struck me, first of all, how unusual it was that we were all doing this, and we're all about the same age. And then second of all, how maybe it's actually becoming more common and not that unusual. And then also, I think that where we were in our lives and our careers was similar, but then there was variation there as well. Let me see if I get this right. We have two of us, one single person, two married without children, and one married with a child. And so there are different implications for your career if you're picking up a family or a spouse and moving. And then where we ended up, I mean, I think some of us ended up in tenured positions. Some of us ended up at places where tenure doesn't exist. One of us went into administration. So the more I thought about it and the more this group chat kind of evolved, the more I thought we needed to share our stories.
Yeah, and I think one thing I tell people sometimes, Gina, just that group chat. I think that group chat's been going on for, I don't even know, decade now, where we have shared life together, right? And in this group chat. And so I think that, go ahead, what were you gonna say, Gina?
I was just saying, Melissa Hogue had her son in that group chat.
Yes,
Like she described
absolutely.
going through labor and giving birth, and he is what, like 11 now?
He's like 12 years old now. So definitely over a decade. But I think sometimes when you're honest, and I think that's one of the things in that group chat, we've always been really honest and supportive of each other through good and bad. But
Yeah.
but part of this panel is from the Pedagogy into Practice was just being honest of, you get to this point in your career where, you have tenure, if that's what you're going for, or you're at your dream school and you're doing the research and you're getting the great teaching awards and you're doing all these amazing things. But sometimes you just go, is this really where I can do the most good, or is this where I'm going to be the most happy? And it could be a location. I know that's part of it for some of us, but some of it, is this for the next 15 years? When you're in the mid-career time and you hit a certain age, let's be for real, you hit a certain age and you're in that mid-career, you start thinking, it's not a midlife crisis. I wouldn't call it that. I would just call it a big moment of reflection. And that's what happened in that chat. And Gina was like, let's be honest with the junior faculty, because we're now, when we go to these conferences, people like Betsy Marvin and Jane Clendenning, we joke about this all the time, because when we were young and we look up to Jane and Betsy, and we still look up to you, Jane and Betsy. Let's keep
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Keep it real. Yeah.
Yes. But, and there's people coming up to us asking questions that we asked Jane and Betsy. And Gina, you were just like, let's put this out there.
Yeah. And
feel for our junior colleagues.
I think each of us were sort of thinking on our own, am I crazy to want to do this?
Yes.
Am I crazy to want to pick up my life, my family, if I have one? Am I crazy to want to do this? And I think we were all able to assure each other that either we weren't crazy, or maybe we were, but it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add to that I felt like if I was ever going to make a move, realistically, at a certain age, like once you get past a certain age, I don't know that it's a great idea to be going on the job market. And so it was sort of, for me, this opportunity came up to throw my hat in the ring. And I had a great job, great colleagues. For me, I thought, well, if I want to make a move, like this is the time to actually do it. And I probably don't want to wait any longer than this. So that was something that was also on my mind.
Patricia, I know it's Paul and Jen asking the questions here, but I feel like you might want to contextualize where you moved from and to and why.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I was at University of Delaware, and I was in a tenure track position. I would have been going up for tenure, I guess, maybe a year after, I think, because I had took a COVID year. And I think, I love my theory colleagues, but I was, as a single person, I wanted to be in a larger city as well. And so this opportunity came up at Juilliard. I found out about the job and decided to throw my hat in the ring. And I thought that, it was a difficult situation because financially it makes no sense to move to New York City. And the Delaware job was actually a really great job for me financially. So I felt like I was taking a pretty big risk, but I've moved around a lot in my career. I've taught at almost every kind of place that there is to teach. I've taught at community college, at state schools, at small private schools. I've been in the Midwest. I've been in the Mid-Atlantic. So I've really been all around, and I really enjoy the challenge of teaching a new group of students who have different kinds of goals and different kind of backgrounds. Yes. So that's been a really fun thing for me, actually, over the course of my career.
Maybe you could each tell us about what transition were you in at that time? Where did you come from? Where did you go to? That kind of thing.
Who wants to
Leigh,
start
were
that?
you the first? Was Leigh the first?
He was the first,
Leigh
yeah.
was the first. So, Leigh, you're
Yeah.
the pioneer here.
Um, is that true? Did I leave before you went to Lipscomb?
Yes.
2022. When did you?
Okay. All right. It is me then. Um, so I was at Michigan State. I had started there in 2005. So I'd been there for 15 years, helped establish the master's degree in music theory pedagogy that they have there. And absolutely loved it. I loved the students. It was a wonderful, wonderful program. But I started kind of getting the itch to work with doctoral students. I was getting really jealous. We were working with all these amazing master's students for 2 years and then sending them out into the world. And my colleagues would get to work with them for like 5 or 6 years. And I was getting really, really jealous of, of those people. And so I started thinking about, do I want to work somewhere that has a PhD program? And in, fall of 2019, a job ad came out for a senior scholar at the University of British Columbia. And I lost my mind because, in all honesty, that's been my dream job for years and years and years. And I just never told anyone out loud because, the West Coast, Vancouver, PhD students, John Roeder, I mean, just the history of that program is incredible. And so obviously applied, interviewed, and the drama of getting that job though. I got a job offer on March 9th, verbal job offer on March 9th. And then the world shut down on March 11th, and I didn't get the written offer until April 28th. So for 2 months, I was anxietying at these folks and at my husband constantly because, is this going to come through? Thankfully it did. So yeah, moved to Vancouver in July of 2020, started a brand new job during COVID, didn't meet my colleagues at UBC for about 10 months, or any of my students. It was a very strange time. But yeah, so that's my path. So the transition for me, I went from an R1 university to another R1 university, but the primary change is, different country. That's a big change. But PhD programs and the types of students that we get at the university in general. Who was next? I think next was Jenny, right?
Well, mine all has to do with COVID. So, when you're living in the beautiful mountains of Boone, North Carolina, which is where I lived, and you're living there, and you are looking at these beautiful, beautiful sunsets, and you have nowhere to go, right? All you can do is think. And so I started to really, and a lot of people have heard me talk about this, but I really started to think about my purpose and my impact. And I was in this great learning community online with colleagues. I made a playlist about my life on what it could look like. And so I remember what mountain I was on when I made the decision. Everything kept coming back about leadership. And so I had gotten a call from Lipscomb about 6 years prior to come be the director of their School of Music, and had turned it down. And so when they called again in 2022, when I read my purpose statement that I'd written that day on the mountain, I know it sounds like that actually did happen. And those of you that know me know that like that would happen to me. But I wrote it down and it matched everything. And so my family was gung-ho about moving to Nashville. I've always had a love of Nashville and the people. Dolly Parton is my person. And so I moved to Nashville and I loved it. And I was able to get to Lipscomb and work with that faculty there and work in classical and commercial music. I still taught theory classes. I went from teaching 4 classes at Appalachian down to 2 at Lipscomb, directing the program. But my job there was really to build and to, get things ready for accreditation and a whole new skill set that I think it's kind of amazing if you look at so many administrators new administrators that will be at NASM. Shout out to my NASM roommate right there, Jen Weaver, like in a week and a half, my NASM roommate for life. But there's a lot of theorists that are going into administration because I think we have that skill set of seeing both the fine details, but zooming out. I mean, we've been doing that for years with analysis. So I was doing great with what I was doing at Lipscomb, but there were days, if I'm being honest, and that I missed Appalachian. I missed that R2 state school, regional, first gen. I missed a marching band. I missed going to the football team, practices with my gear on and cheering with the fight song. Like I missed all that. And so when the job opened up at MTSU, which is probably about 35 miles south of Nashville, I can still get to Nashville. I was at the Save the Music, VH1. Do y'all remember that? VH1 Save the Music. I was at their big gala last night with Leigh and Womack. Do you know who that is? So I still get that. But then I get to drive down to Murfreesboro, which is a smaller town, and I get to see my family so much more. And I teach one theory class now and direct a school of music and do a lot with the College of Media and Entertainment that's in another college. So I think for me, it was very, very different than Leigh's. Mine was a total change in my main day-to-day. Like I said, I still am involved in pedagogy and still research. Leigh and I just finished a grant, actually, a couple weeks ago. And I'm still doing that. But I feel like leadership is where I need to be now and at R2. So that was long. Sorry about that. You can cut it shorter.
Then who moved next?
Well, Patricia and I moved at the same time, and I think is this right, Patricia? We interviewed for our respective jobs on the same day. I think
it was either the same day or it was really close.
I think it was the same day.
Yeah, I think we were supporting each other in making the change. I think you were
Absolutely.
a big part of me feeling like this could be a really good thing. This could be a fun thing. I should probably do this.
Yeah, I could look back at the text messages, but I think we interviewed on the same day and considered that a good omen. Do you want to go first? It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, you can go first.
Okay. I like Patricia, I have moved around a lot. So I'll give a brief background of my academic nomadism. I started, my first job was right out of my doctorate at Shenandoah University, and that's where I had done my undergrad. So I went back there within minutes of defending my dissertation, and that was in 2000. Along the way, I met the man that would later become my husband, and we did an academic couple thing where he was living in Ohio and I was in Virginia. Once we got married, we decided that didn't really work very well, so I ended up applying and getting a job at Youngstown State University in Ohio, in the very northeastern corner of Ohio, near Pittsburgh, essentially a Pittsburgh suburb. Theory coordinator, theory oral skills teaching, sort of your garden variety theory job, tenure track, and went through everything there, got tenure and went up to full professor. And I was there about 16 years. And it was for a long time, it was a great job. It was a mid-size regional state university, lots of school spirit, great marching band. Shout out to Jenny. And our job, we were kind of the music ed school powerhouse of the region. We were training K-12 teachers, and we did it really, really well. And then we also had a really strong performance, and particularly a jazz, very, very strong jazz program. And like a lot of state schools, it became beset by budget problems after COVID. And I'll just say cuts were being made that scared me a bit and that I certainly didn't agree with. And tenured faculty were either being let go under very flimsy reasoning about budgets and things like that. And in the end, as part of a budget package, they offered their senior faculty buyouts, essentially early retirement, which I was not and still am not old enough to retire, but I decided to take that and see what happened. And that's where this group of people, along with my husband, were so supportive. I really took a chance on leaving something that could have been safe, but I also felt like it was getting less and less safe. And kind of stepping into the unknown and putting myself back onto the job market. And thankfully, Leigh used the word anxiety as a verb, and that's exactly what was happening to me for a space of a few months when I decided to commit to resigning from my current position in October, finishing out the school year, and then not knowing what would happen after that. And the job came open at Brown. First of all, I tell people that I was so freaking lucky to get this job. Spoiler alert, I love this job. I want to do this job until I die, and I plan on living a long time. And then when I use that word lucky or fortunate, I'll often have people respond with, especially, people in this virtual room would say to me, "Oh, but Jena, it's not luck. You've got the skill and you've got the experience and da, 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 da." And yes, okay, I do have those things, but we all know in academia that luck has more to do with a certain job coming up at a certain time. And that's what happened. It was much like the Youngstown job and the Shenandoah job. You see a job and you think, okay, this is written for me. And the job at Brown is all oral skills, which has always been my favorite part of teaching music theory. And I think, people in music theory are as divided about teaching oral skills as they are about the Cadential 6-4. Right? People love it.
That question.
What's that?
Because no doctors loves to ask how you like.
They do. Yes, they do. So I thought I'd just break the seal right now. Yeah. I wish you all could see Ben right now. He's like losing his mind laughing. Okay.
I absolutely love this.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And the other thing that nobody can see right now on Zoom is that on the wall behind me is this giant ear. There's a giant, like 2-foot tall plastic ear on my wall behind me. She has a name. The ear's name is Ara Leigh. You can throw me out now if you want. But ear training has always been my jam. And so I'm one of those people, when I go to AP, I always want to grade the sight singing. Nobody wants to grade the sight singing. I love to grade the sight singing. So it's my thing. And so when I saw this job that was all ear training and keyboard, I thought, well, sign me up. This is really what I'd love to do. And so my actual title is that I'm the director of the Keyboard Musicianship Lab, because the oral skills classes here are considered labs attached to the theory classes. And once upon a time, they were keyboard labs where, okay, you realize your figured bass for your theory homework, or you write your 4-part progression, and then you have to go and play them on the piano. All right. It's a very, very old school notion, but it's one that still has value, I think. So I think when they brought me on, the idea was to really expand that keyboard lab, which also sort of doubles as a class piano class because we don't have a separate one here, but to turn that keyboard lab into more of a musicianship lab and integrate singing, dictation, improvisation, all that stuff that I love to do. This was a move back to the East Coast. I grew up on the East Coast. My favorite place in all the places I've lived before this was upstate New York, and New England is very much the same way. So I love it up here. And my husband, who was born and raised, lived his entire life in Ohio. He was 66 when we moved here, and I was really worried about literally uprooting him, if I can use another pun, and bringing him to Providence, taking him away from the only place he's ever lived. He loves it here. He doesn't want to go back. He's been so supportive. And, again, not to wander into difficult things, but that's the world we live in right now. Ohio politically went from bluish to purplish to deep red, and the legislature has passed some really scary laws about what you can and can't teach in Ohio. And so while I'm really relieved to be out of there, I also have no small amount of survivor's guilt for the friends and colleagues who are still there and still dealing with that.
Yeah, so I started out in the Midwest. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, but was out in the Midwest. My first position was at Illinois Wesleyan, which was a small liberal arts school, and I was teaching piano and theory. It was a visiting position. I ended up getting my first tenure track position after 2 years there, and that was at Valparaiso University in Indiana, not too far away. And during that time, my mother's husband became quite sick. And so we have a pretty small family, and I was the person who would take care of things that when family needed help. And so a job came up at a community college 30 minutes away. And the night that the job was closing, I sort of remembered that it had come up, and I thought, I probably should just apply for that on a whim, just because it would allow me to be near her. We knew that he was probably going to pass away within 2 years. So I was already in bed and I got out of bed and was like, okay, let me write this application, sent it off. And then I ended up getting the job. And that was a really tough decision to make. I was already in my early 40s at that point. And it was my first tenure track job. And I was like, I'm never going to get another job after this. And I had a lot of people who had attitudes about leaving a tenure track position at a four-year college and going to a community college. But I did some, deep thinking on it. And I just had this feeling in my gut that it was the right thing to do. And it turns out that it was a really good thing to do. I think that's where I started to become a better teacher, was a community college job. And those were some of my favorite students ever. I was there for 3 years. And, a lot of those students, the idea was that they wanted to be music teachers and be directors of the band program at a high school or middle school or something like that. I knew that a lot of those students were not going to end up going to a lot of the students wouldn't end up going to a music program in general. And I've kept in touch with a number of them, and they're all over the place in terms of what they're doing. Some of them are music teachers and really, really loving it. And so that was a great experience. My mother's husband passed away, and so I got to be there to help with that transition, which was really important to me. So a lot of my moves have to do with personal reasons, maybe more than this job particularly appealed to me. But from each of these jobs, I was learning different types of things. And their student support was a really important aspect of what I was doing, helping them learn study skills, helping them navigate what they wanted to do after community college. These students I felt what I loved about that job was I felt like I was really helping them to move to a different place than where they had come from in terms of their socioeconomic status and education level. They were mostly first generation. So the problem with that position was that it was endless. The responsibilities were endless. I was the one full-time music faculty member. I was like head of a concert series. I had to take care of, all the classrooms and hiring and things like that. It was and also teach. I can't even remember what my load was. I think it was like 5 or something crazy like that. So it was just too much. And I knew that this wouldn't be a job that would be great to stay in forever. So I moved my mother, went back on the job market. And that's when I ended up getting the University of Delaware job and loved that. I was there for 5 years. It was a really different kind of student that was there. There were some first generation students, but it did have a bit of a private school feel. And a lot of those students is a big music ed program, a great choral program, but also a great band program there as well. So, and then I think I started, maybe it was during COVID where I started to feel, I mean, we all felt a lack of community, but I started feeling like in the town where I was, it was hard to get to know people. While my theory colleagues I was really close with, the people outside, I never saw anyone outside of the music department or the School of Music. And I gave a talk at the two practice and Steve Lates told me that there was a position coming open at Juilliard and maybe I should think about it. And I was like, oh, I'm not, Juilliard, I'm not conservatory trained. So I knew it would be a whole different ball game. I understood that their ear training was going to be very different from, and my colleagues at Delaware, Phil Duker and Danny Stevens and Jennifer England for a few of those years are great oral skills teachers. And I could really depend on the ear training the students were getting when I was teaching theory concepts. So I wasn't sure if it was going to be for me. And I did kind of, I took a risk and accepted the job, and I have really loved it. It's extremely challenging, and teaching these students is very different from teaching any of the other students that I've worked with in the past. So I feel like this is going to be a place that's going to challenge me for a long time to come.
Patricia, you just reminded me of something. That was the PIP in Michigan, right?
Yes.
To go, yeah. And I had completely forgotten about this, but right after you had that conversation with Steve, we sat down on the couch in the lounge and basically dumped everything onto each other about, because you were sort of bowled over by this idea that you might apply to Juilliard. And I remember I was at the point where I was trying to decide if I was going to stay where I was or move. And so there were some really intense conversations around that. I'd forgotten about that until just now, but I think it speaks to what Jenny said about how we've really gone through all of this together.
There's also an interesting sort of similarity between all of our stories, which is this sense of like mid-career figuring out what's important to you and being able to identify an opportunity that does like fit you in some way, even if it challenges you during that process, right? So, we all experience different challenges with switching to new positions, but we all had that experience of, Jena said something about this, like looking at a job and going, wait, this is written for me, or this is, something that is meaningful to me in some way. And, I feel like when we're just starting out in our career, there's this feeling of, please just let me get a job. Like I wherever it is, please just let me get a job. And then we sort of get to this point where we start thinking like, here's who I am, here's who I'm becoming, here's who I want to become. And, looking at positions from that lens. And again, this also comes back to what Jena was saying about luck. We identify those things and then something comes up that fits that for us. And then we get lucky enough to get that job. But it's looking for a new position, a new opportunity mid-career is a lot more focused on who am I becoming, who do I want to be, as opposed to please God, just give me a job.
100%. That is exactly what I was going to, I guess, ask or pose as kind of like a distillation of the four kind of lines or threads is, you have this immense challenge. The thought of going back on the job market for me is just terrifying. And it's not that I don't think I would get a job necessarily. It's just that being on the job market is so anxiety inducing. You have to have something to like come back to that, like, okay, it sounds like you all got to a point where you understood yourselves at a level where you knew that not only was it a direction that you wanted to go, but like a part of your self purpose or your self discovery really fit like exactly where that pathway was for you at that time. And that allowed you to face those challenges was actually healthier in the end, right? Like, I don't want to overstate that, but wow, it's amazing to just hear that from you all, because I think we all have challenges, or maybe somebody out there is, thinking about changing or applying for a certain position. And I think the support system is 100% necessary. I think knowing yourself and understanding what your purposes are is 100% necessary. It's not like an optional thing. Don't think you're going to hit the job market and be wondering, well, maybe this could be part of this job could be nice. Don't just think the grass is always greener. It should really fit your purpose, and you need to have a support system if you're going to go back out there that will help you get through it.
Yeah, and I think, we spend when you go to graduate school and you get that terminal degree and you get out and you get that job and I don't know about you all, but I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to validate who I was for my professors and my faculty from my graduate degree. I'm talking well over a decade trying to please those people. And they were great to me and everything, but I still was like, have I arrived? Have I really arrived in the field? Am I quite arrived in the field? And imposter syndrome was huge. And, and I can tell you, at least from my experience, that when I found my thing which is a mixture of teaching and administration and helping other people find their thing. But when I found that, my imposter syndrome went down, because I was like, I am in my place where I am doing my best work, right? And I think for the my junior faculty colleagues that listen to No Doctors, I would just encourage you to not wait as long as I did to quit trying to impress every single person in the field. You're not going to do it. Find yourself a group of people like that I'm looking at right now that will support the crazy ideas. I mean, when I was doing technology back, theory and technology back in the day, I was told it wouldn't do anything. And so sometimes you're just ahead of the curve. So find people that support you and quit worrying about the haters. I know it's easier said. It does get better when you're 40. My students say, when does it get better? I'm like, about 40, and they're like 20. That's probably not the best advice, but it's true.
There's so many other things go wrong when you hit 40 and 50.
It's all about perspective at that point.
Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead, Leigh.
Go ahead, Jena. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that. See, now I lost it. What Ben said, and then Jenny. I really wanted to show people that it was possible, right? Mm-hmm. It's not easy, but it's possible to do this.
Go ahead, Jen. You unmuted.
I did. Well, I was going to say one of the things, and it's come up a little bit in all of your stories, is the concept of tenure in a situation that feels maybe even fixed. Like, this is it. I'm fixed here now. And then leaving that and going somewhere else. That's from the academia perspective, that's a huge risk. So what did that look like for each of you?
For me, so I had tenure at Michigan State. I had started thinking about potentially going up for full. I was hired at UBC with the understanding that I had to reapply, but also with somewhat of a reassurance that they weren't going to hire me if they didn't think I would be able to get tenure. But it's still quite nerve-wracking. And the tenure process at UBC takes like 18 months. So I had to send in all my materials when I first got there. And then I didn't hear for almost 18 months that, oh, yes, it's actually gone through and you're okay. And and actually I'm at the I applied for full about 16 months ago. So every email I get, I'm like, is this my announcement that I got full? But so mine was nerve-wracking because there was always the possibility that it wouldn't go through. But there was a little bit of a safety net that I was assured that they wouldn't have hired me if they didn't think I could. So it was a leap of faith, but not as huge as some of the leaps that some other people took, for sure.
I think for me, so I was on a tenure track. I gave up a tenure track position twice. And so in some ways, I feel like tenure isn't a guarantee anyway. And I feel like most of the universe doesn't ever get guaranteed a job until you decide to retire on your own. And so I'm not sure, the tenure piece was obviously in my mind. I also don't have children. And so I feel like I can take risks that other people might not feel comfortable taking. But I also really love the teaching part of my job, and the research part is honestly not my favorite part. I love doing pedagogy research. And so the position that I'm in now doesn't require any kind of research. I'll still want to do some, but not having that pressure all the time has actually been great for me. And it allows me to really play around in my classroom and think about what I want to be doing, and allows me actually to really focus on pedagogy. And that's something that, it's good. I fit well in that area because Juilliard really wanted to hire someone who was actually interested in focusing on teaching.
Can I jump in next on that? Because that was almost exactly my same experience here at Brown. What I was looking at was a structure where, first of all, as Patricia said, it wasn't that I had to teach and I didn't get to do research. It was I got to teach and I didn't have to do research. Because I actually got into this whole track as a composer. When Jenny was talking about, not worrying about satisfying your teachers. Well, my first job, my teachers were my colleagues, and some of them were pressuring me to still be a composer, and that's not who I was anymore. So I was never a theory researcher, and I got through my PhD by the skin of my teeth because I knew I wanted to teach. And so to be at a place that really values teaching first and foremost as part of the job description has been really great. But as far as tenure goes, yes, I was tenured at my last job. Saying anything that isn't public information, but my former institution was cutting tenured positions. So again, it was no longer safe. So the idea that I was jumping out of that and into something that was not tenure or tenure track really didn't bother me all that much. And on top of that, the way the teaching professor positions work here is that there is a promotion structure. Oh, and by the way, I can announce it to the public. I just got promoted starting next year, associate teaching professor. There is a promotion structure. The reappointment structure is every 3 to 6 years, depending on your rank. And we even get sabbaticals. We get a sabbatical. We can take a semester sabbatical every 6 years. So it's like, this is ostensibly not really that different from a tenured position. It feels really secure. And I also like the fact that I'm challenged to still be a good teacher, to stay here, So yeah, that's, I'm really comfortable and content with where I landed.
I guess y'all are waiting for me. I've applied for tenure 3 times. I've gotten it 3 times. So I had to do it. I did it at Appalachian. I had to do it again at Lipscomb. I got credit. I got tenure like a month before I left. And then I had like 6 weeks to put my tenure file together here, and I got it like 2 weeks before I started. So that's for most administrators. They bring you in with tenure, but you still have to put together a pretty lengthy document. So my advice for that is keep all your documents, even if you think you're never going to go up for tenure again. You don't know that.
Yeah, well, and just to round this out, I should say that the three note doctors have very different situations when it comes to this conversation as well, because we have the labels of tenure here, but not actual tenure. I get renewed every year, but I am full professor. I think Ben has longer contracts than I do, but your title officially is
Principal lecturer, kind of like
Prince-
similar to what Gina
Mhm.
was describing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Paul is in a more traditional tenure track situation. So yeah, regardless of where you land, it might not look like what you pictured it would look like anyway. That's what I would say about that.
When I first got here, the three ranks were lecturer, senior lecturer, and get this, distinguished senior lecturer. If that doesn't make you feel like an old lady, I don't know what does.
That's when you know you're in an Ivy League school. Distinguished.
Right.
And I think that's something that when I look around this Zoom, like, and look and see my friends and colleagues here, but like, so Gina's at Ivy League. There's Leigh and Canada at R1. Patricia's at a conservatory. I'm at a R2, and then we got our liberal arts private school represented here. I just think it's so cool in our field that we're all great teachers. We all care about pedagogy, and we're all at different types of schools, training up these amazing students from different backgrounds and different environments, but still have as our goal to be great teachers, right? Regardless of what school or anything we're at. And so just, you can tell I'm an administrator because I'm always like, empower the junior faculty. But like, I think there's a sense of hope for people that there are jobs for people like you to do good work. Yeah.
Amen and hallelujah.
A piece of advice I would give to, like, this is the type of job that is perfect for me. This is the type of student that I'm good at working with. Like, try not to allow yourself to be flexible and keep in mind this possibility that you have something to bring to all different kinds of environments. I think that's something, a lot of you felt like the job opportunity that you took really spoke to your strengths. And I will say that I was nervous about the job opportunity that I ended up taking. And I didn't know if it would be the right fit for me. And but I'm glad that I still took it. And so I think I've had that experience a number of times, like going to the community college. I wasn't sure if that was really the right fit for me. And it turns out that the ones I thought weren't the right fit have been maybe the ones where I felt like I've done the most growing, the ones that have been the most meaningful for me. They've been the hardest in terms of like the hours I put in and sort of the level of stress that I feel for one reason or another. But they're also the ones that I feel really happy in and excited about and excited to go to work and wondering what's going to happen next. So.
And right fit for right now, right, Patricia? Like, that's what we were saying. It's like, it could be for that right time. Like for Appalachian, it was a beautiful place on a beautiful mountain, but I also had a child and it was very isolated. She was a great skier, but there was nothing. I mean, she's a great skier, but I wanted her to have more opportunities. And so that was a part of it too, to see more, be near an airport. So I think it could be the absolute right fit for that time period of your life. And I think that's been a big thread for all of us too.
Yeah, definitely. Can I come back for a second to imposter syndrome? Because I think it was Jenny who has never, ever been any kind of imposter. It was Jenny who said that, my imposter syndrome vanished when I
wouldn't say vanished. I would say it lessened.
It lessened. Okay, fair. I pulled up my notes from the original panel, and I think there's sort of imposter syndrome too, the sequel, when you move at this age. And in my notes, I have, the things that we asked ourselves when we considered this kind of move. And there's, about family and cost of living. We all moved to a higher cost of living place. But then I put down this question: my middle-aged mind, ears, voice, hands aren't as agile as they used to be, and my body is no longer cut out for 12-hour days. How do I take care of myself while still making a positive first impression on my students and colleagues? So there was, for me, this sense. I was, 52, I think, 51 or 52 when I moved. And there was this sense of, are they getting me past my prime? This is a great job at a great school. And, and a big part of me still wishes, for a lot of reasons, that I had gotten this job 10, 15 years ago, because then I could really show them what I'm made of. And so it's this idea, as I get older, do I become less good at what I'm doing? Do I become less relevant? And so far, I have felt so very welcomed. But it's, and like I said, it's good because I'm going to do this job till I die. So that was a big part of it for me. One of the ways I think I grew a little bit.
I actually gave a talk at SMT a number of years ago on imposter syndrome. And, I think it's really important that everyone, and actually I've done interviews on other podcasts about imposter syndrome, but it's so important that people realize that everyone experiences it to some degree. One of the things about academia is that we have a tendency to look at other people and go, oh, they've got everything together. They've got their plan down. They've got this down. They know exactly what they're doing. And inside, we're all going, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, am I doing the right research? Am I teaching the right things? Am I going to be able to keep up with the current trends in the discipline so that I'm still relevant as a member of the discipline? And, so even mid-career, even senior people have those feelings of imposter syndrome. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough, because it's everyone feels it to some degree.
I remember that talk you gave, Leigh, at SMT, and it was amazing. And just the extent to which you made yourself vulnerable in front of all those people, I will never forget that act of courage on your part.
Did I cry during that one?
Just a little.
Just
a little bit.
I may, yeah.
Tiny bit.
Who hasn't cried on a panel, though? I've cried on a panel.
Who hasn't cried at SMT?
I definitely did.
Really? Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about getting older, I would say I still experience imposter syndrome on the daily, just about, but you get used to it. You get used to the feeling. And I think that's one of the lovely things that comes with getting older, is you get used to just having that feeling and just, well, I've got to do this thing anyway. So it gets easier. And Leigh, I also remember that was a really important talk for me. I remember that talk at SMT. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as we're thinking about, as you talked about, like as you get older, you start to, be okay with that anxiety or that feeling of you don't have everything put together, because you realize no one has everything put together. I wonder what you would say to perhaps yourself, like coming right out of your PhD, maybe not, however long that was. We're not going to ask how long that was, but maybe what advice you would give your former self, kind of knowing what you know now, where you're at now. What kind of advice would you give yourself as when you're just coming right out of that PhD, having all these hopes and dreams, imaginations of what's going to happen, and what you might say to them?
Put more money in your 401k. Sorry.
But then your former self would be like, "What money? I just finished my doctorate."
Yeah, amazing.
Indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's the 4-year anniversary of that article, and I still get emails about that article in Inside Higher Ed. And, that article, I always called that a love letter to my graduate students, and I never anticipated it to be what it is. I'm sure it's probably read way more than any theory thing or book I've ever written. Jen,
Yeah, I just want to say that my husband, who is a research psychologist, read it before he knew that I knew you.
I mean, it's definitely not in the music world only. So, but I think looking back to me, I'm such a goal-oriented person, like kind of annoyingly to my own self. It's not a great thing to be as goal-oriented as I am, because I would say enjoy the moments. Just enjoy being in that classroom, be present for people. And I think to be 1,000% honest, for me, it took some really hard conversations with my husband. I've been married 22 years ago, that sat me down and said, "Look, you got to be present and in the moment." So I look back at all those things when I was crying on the sidewalk of Toronto at the 2000 SMT, about ready to drop out of grad school. And I look back at that girl sitting there and be like, every single little thing that you do will lead you exactly to the moment that I'm like having now, right? So just my advice would be, don't be so focused on the future. Enjoy the and people. The relationships, that's the best part of the living right now, is the relationships.
In my case, I felt like I spent a lot of time early in my career, excuse me, at the periphery of the discipline. So, I was interested in pedagogy, I was interested in cognition, and those things were very much sort of outside what was centered in the discipline at that time. And so I spent a lot of time and honestly mental energy feeling like isolated from the rest of the discipline. And, if I could go back and say, like, the discipline is going to change, the discipline is going to shift, and, what you do is going to be more accepted as research as you go. It's the discipline right now is changing so quickly that who knows where it's going to end up. But it kind of felt like a losing battle at some points early in my career, where I just wasn't what I was doing. I don't know if I wasn't being taken seriously, but what I was doing wasn't being taken seriously. And, Jenny and I have commiserated about this a lot, because early career, we were both really interested in technology and pedagogy intersections. And, A, we were women in that area, but B, it was pedagogy and nobody really was interested, I guess. But yeah, like the field is going to change. And in some ways, the people who are on the periphery of the discipline are the ones who are going to change it. And so if you're feeling isolated in SMT, it's, keep doing what you're doing, because you're the ones that are going to make the discipline accept what you're doing.
Yes. And find your people, right? Find your people who are doing the same thing.
Yeah. Jenny and I have been supporting each other for so long.
Yeah. Leigh, you and I used to meet up in Toledo and talk about music, pedagogy, technology, and gamut and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's finding the people that are there on the periphery with you and making the focus shift over towards you is,
I really love that, because as we were talking about thinking about imposter syndrome, I was thinking about the idea of belonging, because I just read my students' journal entries. Not for Theory 1, it was our intro to the liberal arts class, in case you're like, why are they writing in a diary for you? But First of all, those journals made me cry. I was like, this is the most sad grading I've ever done in my life. I want to give all these little people feeling like outsiders a big hug. But while you were talking about imposter syndrome, I was sitting here thinking exactly what you just said, Leigh, that at the beginning of my career, I felt like an outsider. It's changed, and why I maybe feel less imposter syndrome now than I used to is that now I feel like an insider in this field, right? I feel like the things that interest me and that I want to talk about and all of those things are the same things that a lot of other people are interested in and want to talk about. And that's a wonderful transformation that's occurred in our discipline, in our world.
Yeah, and we've been talking about on the group chat how we don't know how it happened, but suddenly we're like the elder stateswomen of the field. When did that happen? And Jen, I'd put you in that too.
You
I'll
know,
take
it. We're using a lot of the passive voice. The field has shifted or things have changed. You know, we have changed things. We shifted the field. And, you know, sometimes it's really hard to, there was a lot of work that was done before us, you know, Betsy Marvin, Jane Clement, like there were Gary Karpinski. There were a lot of people who started that shift. But we were able to build on it. And it can be really hard to remember to not, I don't want to say take credit, but to recognize that we played a role in the way things have moved within the discipline. And, you know, one of my big things is I want to leave SMT better than when I found it. And like at this point in my career, I feel like that's my primary goal, is providing that support, providing that mentorship that I got from people like Betsy and from people like Gary Karpinski, and, you know, being able to support people who are doing the research that is going to change and refocus the discipline going forward. And so, you know, that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to focus on now in terms of being the elder stateswoman in the discipline. I have to accept that's the way it is, and I have to use it for good and not for evil.
Gina, what would you tell your new freshly minted PhD self?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think a lot of this has already been covered, but you know, as I said earlier, I came out of grad school as a composer, and I think the lesson I've learned is universal and it applies to all kinds of disciplines. But I think when I first started, I was trying to write music that would be accepted in the field rather than the music I wanted to hear. And so, and that gave me, from the time I finished my doctorate to, and, you know, for about the next 10 years, I didn't write music because I was afraid to. I was afraid of how it would be received. And anyway, I got really caught up inside my own head, with trying to sort of satisfy what I perceived as the expectations of an academic field versus writing the music I wanted to write. You know, and again with research, and instead of, you know, pursuing the things that I want to pursue, pursuing the things that make me the person I am. So I would just say, you know, girl, chill out and write what you want to hear.
I guess I should answer that question myself too. I think I would tell myself, don't worry about if your path doesn't look like everyone else's path. I started my PhD, I earned my PhD quite late in life. I was about 10 years older than everyone that was, you know, in my class. And so whatever experiences you have, either that brought you to music theory and teaching music theory, no matter the more diverse the experiences of the people in our field, the better off our field is. And just know, I think young people often don't feel confident about the ways in which they're different. And I think when you understand if your research interests are different, or if the way you want to teach in the classroom seems different, you feel like there's something different about you, often that's the thing you really need to hold on to and grow and just run with it. Because that's what makes you unique, and that's going to bring the magic to your career that's going to make you happy and make you happy in the long term.
I think you guys just found the pull quote for the opening. I think that was it.
That's it. Oh my goodness.
Just run with it. I mean, that's it right there. Even in our job changes, y'all, we just ran with it. We didn't ask tons of questions. It just felt like that's what we needed to do. Yeah, I love that. Just run with it. Well said.
And I have a spouse who is beautifully and infuriatingly laid back. He is one of the most chill people I have ever met. And throughout this whole thing, his mantra was, let's just see what happens. We're going to move to Providence. Let's just see what happens. And I think that's really good advice.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, Jenny's holding up a sign that says, what's the best? Is that right? What's the best, that could happen? Rather than what's the worst that can happen.
Exactly. Oh, that's so Jenny. That is so Jenny.
That's the most Jenny thing that ever Jenny.
Hey, I didn't buy it. Yeah. Somebody gave it to me when I came here. Okay.
And that's why, because it's perfect.
Because they know you.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like there should be, like, for most of us, like a little comma and then like a snide remark like after that, something for, at least for me. Well, this has been such a pleasure. And I mean, the time has just flown by. I know we need to wrap this up here. Perhaps you could let us know a little bit about what's going on in your life, a little bit, maybe what you might be working on professionally, research-wise, or perhaps just things that you're doing as a human, because I think that's one of the things I'm taking away from this, is that we are more than just teachers or more than just theorists. We're humans, and that we need to be thinking about our whole selves in our lives.
Oh, can I jump on this one, please? Because, well, first of all, as far as research goes, I am putting in a PIP proposal, but I can't say more about it than that. So you'll all find out eventually what that's all about. But my husband and I just bought a house, and we bought a house on the east side of Providence, which is a great neighborhood. We had been living in an apartment in this neighborhood for a couple of years and got spoiled for it. And one of the things I decided when we moved here is that I wanted to commute to work through any other means than driving a car. So I said, I want to either bike or walk, or we can ride the bus for free, which is fantastic. I'm a big advocate of public transportation. So we bought this house that housing prices are insanely expensive here. And we ended up buying a fixer-upper because it's all we could afford. And I tell people we bought a fixer-upper with a capital FU because, it has consumed our lives. And my husband is retired, and he's also very handy. So when I say we are rehabbing this house, I really mean him. I'm picking out furniture and painting walls, and that's about it. But the punchline here is that the house we bought, it was built in the 1950s as a house, and somebody came along in the 80s and turned the thing into a foot doctor's office. So we bought a foot doctor's office, and we're changing it back into a house. And it's a really goofy place. But if you know my husband and me, we are really into goofy. So that's what we're up to.
I'll jump in next. I'm loving living in New York City. So seeing a lot of musical theater, seeing a lot of plays, going to museums, going to art shows, and have a bunch of friends in the area that are visual artists. So that's been really, really fun. And work-wise, I'm going to be teaching I'm getting together a pedagogy class, a theory pedagogy class for the first time. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll be teaching graduate students. I've taught graduate students in the past, but not doctoral students. So that's something new on the horizon for me.
Let's see. I'm really enjoying, I was working, to be quite honest, if you go into administration, I'm just going to keep it real. I was working about 70 hours a week in my old job, so I'm down to about 50. And that's really dramatic change. And so I'm enjoying being very much a marching band mom and at a lot with my daughter and husband. So I do have a lot more personal time than I've had in the past. So I'm enjoying that and taking that very, very seriously. But also in terms of like two research things, I write a lot for Inside Higher Ed, sometimes under my real name, but a lot of times under my false name, my pseudonym. So I got 3 articles I'm going to try to write by the end of the summer for them, short articles. But also the big news is that Pedagogy Into Practice and the workshops in music theory pedagogy are combined at Leigh VanHandel's beautiful UBC campus. So we've been working on that. So I'll turn it over to Leigh on that note.
Yeah. So Jenny and I have actually just written a ridiculous grant to try to get money to support the Pedagogy Into Practice and workshops conferences. So that's been a thing that's going on. But honestly, the most important thing that I've been working on recently is me. I have a history of going vulnerable, as we've already established. So let me do it here as well. I've been burned out for about 8 years, honestly, and I kept pushing through it, and I never gave myself the time to rest, to heal, it finally caught up with me. And so I've actually been on a partial leave from UBC for about a year to work on myself and finding that work-life balance that we all struggle with, and finding out, going more through the process of Jenny's finding your why. I've seen Jenny give the finding your why talk 100 times, and I cry every single time because I never felt like I had done that examination. And I've been very fortunate for the last year to have the time and opportunity to focus on me and my why. And it's been incredibly helpful. And it was incredibly necessary because I shut down for a while and was not being the best me that I could be in any sense of the word. And so what I've been working on is me. And I'm actually really proud of that.
Thank you for saying that, Leigh. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing your journeys, and this has been just a treat. And hopefully we can all find our way to Vancouver, perhaps in May at some point. And so we'll all see if we can beg for money from our universities to get on up there. But thank you again, once again, for coming on, for your vulnerability, for your honesty. It's so important that that people hear that, so that others can feel that they can be open as well. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure. You just made it to the end of another episode of Note Doctors, the music theory and pedagogy podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and review the podcast, and you can always reach us at notedoctorspodcast@gmail.com with comments, questions, or show ideas. Thanks for listening.